Okay, this is Gavin. Hello. Hello. What am I doing? I'm trying to persuade you to help me create peace on earth. There we go. That's what I'm trying to do. So, I've got a website, and so these last two posts are related to technology. So, if I go to Metapolitech, I can look for technology. Actually, I think I need to go to food tech. My wife likes to cook. So I try to do some user stories, and I think I'm going to start doing more of those. So there's the technology that does not exist, that I want to exist. And then there's this, you have jobs to be done. So for example, make sure everyone has access to clean water and clean food. The food might be a little dirty. We want good food, good healthy food. But what I put up here, a conversation about food can lead towards a conversation about socialism and capitalism. So, I like to have conversations. I did this blind elephant game with Chad the alcoholic, Grim Grizz. Grim Grizz hosted it and put it on. Good job, man. And Jacob Facciarecci was there, and Michael Sartori was there, and myself. And before we started recording, it came up, I think Michael Sartori joked. He said, I'm doing this because I want to get famous. And, they joke like that. And for me, the truth is like, I do want some kind of fame, but at the same time, I know that I'm not the person who is capable of being popular like the president. Like, I think I could be a good president, which is why I'm interested in popularity. Like, my ability to be of service depends on my popularity. But at the same time, I'm not the kind of person who would be good at getting popularity. So I don't have a lot of hope that I would become popular. But there is something in me that knows that popularity is part of the equation for being able to help a lot of people. But why do I do the conversations? I thought about that as well. And I'm starting to get away from the subject of let's help create peace on earth. And this is part of the reason I would not be a great candidate. And it's because at the top, I've done it at the top. I said, disclaimer, being neurodivergent, I sometimes fail to communicate my thoughts clearly. So what this means is like, my mind organizes things different than other people. Like dyslexia, for example, is something that I have encountered in my life, where I'll write my S's and my 2's and my P's and my Q's. I'll write D's and B's. I'll get these things mixed up a little bit. And there's a Latin word for does not follow. And so I could be accused of that, like that a rational, logical person would want to make points that lead to something and leads the person or the audience toward the destination. So for me, destination, I'm trying to keep that in my mind as something about peace on earth. And I'm explaining why, I would not make the best candidate. It's because my ability to become popular is limited. But as an aside, one of the reasons I like recording with people, well, I could go into that. These conversations I think are very important, and I really like the conversations where there's disagreement. So those, they stress me out, and I like stressing myself. Like there might be some type of thing where I'm okay inflicting a kind of suffering on myself, and I enjoy it, and it challenges me and makes me stronger. And then I record these for my children, so I have to mention that. Shout out my children from the future. I love you. I hope I'm still there. I hope we have a great relationship. I'm tearing up just having empathy for the people in the future, my children in the future. But yeah, a lot of these recordings, I think it's a way, like my mom died when I was 2, so if something happened to me, my children would potentially have some of these recordings and would get a glimpse at, the dad on the internet in the virtual realm. When I'm not in the virtual realm, I'm a completely different guy, and hopefully I think my wife helps me strike a good balance between the real world, heaven and earth, the virtual realm being heaven, and the earthly realm being, getting sore and sweating and getting cuts and bruises and things like that. So that was the part for my children in the future. Now back to the point about trying to encourage you to help me create peace on earth. So first of all, you could be a candidate for President of the United States. And there's a lot of things to think about. There's a lot of reasons why you would not want to do this, and I've thought about quite a few of them. Like, if you are smart and you want just to enjoy life, to live, in the kingdom on, live with heaven on earth, like a heavenly life, I don't think you would want to be president. So it'd be a challenge, and if you, there's a chance you would be assassinated if you're a good human being. And I doubt, especially with the technology we have nowadays in this technical era, I don't think there have been very many good presidents, good leaders. Like, I don't think there have been very many. And I think the system, the way that it functions is it selects for people who get corrupted, and it's just what the system does. And if you are incorruptible, like if you're actually a good human being who would be the best candidate, there's a good chance you would become assassinated. So you either have to become a corrupted human being or risk your life. That's the way I see it. So some of these candidates, they might be doing questionable things, and I think that they get blackmailed and threatened, and they basically, I have empathy for them. I think that they're either like ignorant and make mistakes, or they're very intelligent and they're pushed and coerced into making decisions that can cause a lot of harm for the benefit of a few people. So that's my preface. But I don't like talking about some of these topics. Like, even like in this little corner of the internet where I have formed relationships in heaven, in this virtual realm, the conversations are often about things that are they're disconnected from peace on earth. Like, for peace on earth, there's a foundation of trying to be a good human being, and a lot of those conversations are related to that. And you have to form relationships with other people and create communities, and so that's all the foundation, and it is important. But eventually, the community has to become interested in politics. And this is where, and Facciarecci is interested in politics. So, but this is like Facciarecci and myself, we might disagree on socialism and capitalism. And so I try to discourage him from excluding people who think about socialism and think that it can be done, right? I try to discourage him from excluding them. And this would be someone like me, like socialism doesn't make me scared, and capitalism does not make me scared. Neither one of these things cause fear. These are vehicles, kind of like the Republican and the Democrat Party. To me, those are vehicles. And if you have good people with good communities, with good goals, this is the foundation, and those people can take different vehicles, and it can work. These vehicles can work, but some vehicles are more susceptible to things like corruption. So I would compare our whole government and election system as a vehicle. There's some future vehicle we could seek which would be less susceptible to corruption, right? So, but you got to use the vehicle you have. And so so Jacob Facciarecci probably would lean Republican and capitalist, and so I think that vehicle can be used. But I would say there's nothing wrong with trying to encourage good people, and we could talk about those things, to use the Democrat Party and a socialist economic system, right? So I think, I'm into the way you do that is you can temporarily avoid conversations about Democrat or Republican or socialist or capitalist. You can do it with almost every conversation, like every topic. Climate change, that's one of the topics. There's other ones like, guns. I mean, every topic, abortion, every topic. You can have your personal beliefs, but then you can seek out a process and a technology which is going to help you accomplish your goals, right? Your job to be done. For every topic, there's a job to be done, and if you can be explicit about them, then you can try to be innovative in order to accomplish your job to be done. And what I'm saying is that people who disagree on a topic like abortion, they may actually share a similar job to be done, or there's a set or a collection, and they disagree with the path. And then my claim would be is that there's an innovative step that could be done which allows people who have different principles to agree that this new innovation facilitates us progressing in relationship to the job to be done, right? This is project management speak, connected into politics and coupled, like deeply coupled to innovation. And so that's when I say the word innovation, I can say technology. So that's a preface on, why do I think the conversation on innovation and technology is important? And so I'm connected to these people in heaven, in the virtual realm. I want to be specific, like when I say heaven, I mean the virtual realm, like the internet. So you could call it a metaphysical realm, but yeah, I'm interested in innovation and technology, and I think it's a necessary step. And so in order to have peace on earth, I have to somehow encourage you to consider the innovation and innovative people and the processes around developing innovation. That's innovation itself as well. The processes are. That's technology. All of that is important. So now I'll go back to my Metapolitech. So I connected with Connor McCormick. So there's just like a budding connection. I've got a few connections that are just introductions with a few different people who are very intelligent, who are thinkers. I'm not good at growing relationships because I'm neurodivergent. And would be an example. So Connor McCormick has this claim market idea. And I said, I strongly agree with the first sentence. The primary problem with bullshit is that it's free. And I proceed to talk about everything except Connor McCormick's claim market. So, I worry. It's like, when Connor McCormick reads this, how does he feel? So it's all like, I sent him a direct message with some feedback about claim market. And my feedback to him is connected to why I responded the way I did. I don't know if I communicated myself well, and I worry that I offended him. So, but I would say it's good to point at other people, and so I've created a link between nodes. Like, what's funny is I've just been trying to define like a REST protocol for building trees. I did do some research on existing protocols, but essentially, knowledge is in the structure of a graph or a tree. And so I did some research on graph theory and existing open protocols for this, but I didn't really find a REST protocol because, I'm looking at Jamie Joyce, that's her name. They have the society library, and Jamie Joyce goes through and has this tree structure. And so I just mentioned nodes and edges. So I created an edge. First, Connor and I created a connection or an edge. So Connor is a node and I am a node, and we connected. And that, I would say that connection is weak. It could be stronger. And so that's what my blog is. My blog and the mentioning of Connor and the mentioning of the claim market is valuable because I've linked something together in a machine-readable format. So I hope Connor appreciates that just right off the bat, that I mentioned him and his idea. Then I go through and I talk about the thing I've been, I worked with Jason Delport, every Friday for like over a year, almost every Friday for over a year. And so I'm trying to really push this because I think if his idea, and he wouldn't want me to call it his idea, I call it the idea he was gifted, if it works, it would be very helpful for the world. It's an innovative technology that would address the problems that Democrats and Republicans are concerned with, right? It's an example of a technology that can help solve the job to be done for many people, and many people who even disagree on a topic like climate change, for example. And, the idea embedded in this technical claims section is that we could have a platform, and the question I have, does it exist? I always have to try and, as an innovator and engineer, my bias is to create it, but oftentimes something has already been created, like graph theory and graph databases with nodes and edges. I don't need to go create that. I'm glad I didn't. I'm reminded of a story with my father and a miter box. But yeah, I spent a year or two trying to create a perpetual motion machine, and I needed to cut a straight line on a pipe, and my dad's like, oh, you need a miter box, and we went and cut a straight line with a miter box, and I said, man, I'm glad you showed me the miter box. It may have taken me another year to invent the miter box. So that's a very useful point of knowledge for innovators and creators. That creators and innovators, they have traps they can fall into. I say they, it's like we. I am a creative type. So we could have a platform, it may exist, where we present our claims about the convective heat engine and we put money behind it, and then the platform allows someone to do a counterclaim, and for that counterclaim to get voted on, so that the counterclaim receives a reward, right? And the counterclaim could become a claim that has money behind it that can be voted on as well. And there can be these checks and balances in periods of time for, I'm thinking of the game beer pong. It's called redemption, right? So if someone has a counterclaim, maybe there's a period of time where the person with the original claim can redeem themselves by creating a counterclaim to the counterclaim, right? And that can happen back and forth in a debate backed by money, where people get paid and rewarded for their efforts, such that the bullshit is not free. Because, is this idea that was given to Jason, is it bullshit? Jason and I and a few other experts, we don't think it's bullshit. So we need to amplify the signal by putting stake into the claim, behind the claim. So that's technical claims. You can put money behind it. You can try to reward people, like a bug bounty program, for pointing out the bug or the problem with the claim. So you have to be careful when you construct your claims. And yeah, I said up here, I say a technical claim is separate from the person, and a well-constructed claim can be verified objectively. This is why I prefer technical solutions to our problems if possible, right? And I almost said all problems have technical solutions, but that's not true because of the human resource problem. And then I want to point out that this platform, I think you need temporary anonymity, and it's related to the personal claims section. The temporary anonymity allows for the judges, what it does is the goal is to prohibit the judges from conspiring with the people who have the idea, right? So if the prize for the convective heat engine gets up into millions of dollars because many people are funding it, then there's a chance of conspiracy, right? Such that the judges there will be an attempt to produce a counterclaim that appears to be valid, such that the people in positions of power will lie and deceive in order to reap personal benefits at the expense of others, assuming that the truth is valuable for society. So you want to prevent that. I think, I might be wrong about the importance of anonymity there. Perhaps it isn't necessary. It probably is. This is a Jacob Facciarecci pointing at economics. An economic term, non-competing good, non-rivalrous good. Yeah, so the idea is that as more people participate and put money toward an idea, then the probability of conspiracy decreases, because the system is designed such that all of the people who believed in the original idea you would need a mechanism for them to redeem the idea. So that redemption process is important, and I should probably update this, which would show up in version control, because all important sense making should be version controlled, right? I have that at the bottom written. Serious content should have version control with historical changes. So my personal claim, I want to show you this picture. So this was Halloween of last year, 2021. And so I have this idea, it's probably in my blog post, of the anonymous mutes and the anonymous king. And so this is kind of what this is my uniform. So, I wish that the person in power could be anonymous. And I even wish that the person in power could just be a community. That's like, the community could be like a distributed autonomous organization that functions based on a set of rules and processes, such that, and I mention it here, is like, I could run for president and make claims about my future behaviors, and if the claims are well constructed, judges could objectively determine if my behaviors were in contradiction to my claims. But the big difference between a personal claim and a technical claim is that we can't always have temporary anonymity. And so what that means is that the leader in a position of power can be targeted by bad people, selfish people, people who will threaten the lives of your children and your wife. And so then people in positions of power can be corrupted because of threats and bribes. If the bribes don't work, the threats will. So says Lucifer. So we have a system that is vulnerable to evil and to corruption by means of bribes and threats. And that's because we don't allow for anonymity, and we don't allow for these distributed autonomous organizations. And this is understandable. The technical era facilitates a new way of being that we could not, it would have been, very difficult to have done prior to now. This is the hardest thing for people like Jacob Vaccarecci, who, a conservative looks at the past and says, socialism never worked. The economic calculation problem means we cannot do centralized planning. And if you look at history and see all of the failures of those experiments, and you think it can work, you're an idiot. Right? That's what these conservatives think. And have some empathy for them, because the odds are against you. But I'm the guy who tried to create a perpetual motion machine. Spent a year or two embarrassing myself, but it was good for me, actually. But that basically, I went against all the physicists in the world, all the experts who talk about the laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics. So I'm that person. And then after that, I embarrassed myself with, well, maybe I'm the Messiah. And so I went against all the people who think that Jesus is the Messiah, especially in my neck of the woods where I live. If there's a Messiah, if the people around here talk about the Messiah, they're talking about Jesus. So yeah, I'm that guy who says, all that stuff you believe, that most of you believe, I'm skeptical. So, and I've been wrong on both of those issues. I am not the Messiah, and I like to add a yet. I'm not the Messiah yet, but I'm not. And, I did not, manage to create a perpetual energy device. I don't really want to add a yet there because it just isn't as important to me. The so yeah, when you want to say that socialism can work, you're going against history, and when you want to allow for anonymous leaders, you're going against history. And my claim is that technology facilitates an opportunity because we've entered into a new paradigm, a new era that allows for innovation and technology to do things that could never be done before, like fly through the air, or fly through the air at thousands of miles per hour, or send missiles into collision. Like, I was in missile defense for 6 years, and we could use information technology to do things that could never be done before. So that's kind of the hope, is that technology, and this is a theme, technology, the hope is that technology can solve some of these problems, if not all of them, and innovation. Yeah, I put a lot of my hope and my faith in innovation. So, in the current election system, I cannot, a Metapolitech candidate without an identity will not be able to run. You have to share your identity. So, and then as soon as the candidate's identity is exposed, there is an opportunity for conspiracy where you can be bribed or threatened. And I did a thought experiment here where I run for president of the United States within a political party. Like, I don't care. Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, I don't care. One of my personal claims is that I will wear my Dickies jumpsuit while attending debates. So imagine this character up on stage. Another claim is that I will provide debate responses to the audience delivered by the Metapolitech platform. So, if you are in my network, then you can contribute to what I, the candidate, say on national television in response to, a debate moderator question. And as a distributed autonomous organization, that we would figure out, how that process works, right? I've got ideas, but I could very well be a puppet, and then all of the people do a response, and there was a random selection. Like, I don't like that idea, but that's an idea. There could be Gavin, the puppet, for the platform, responding based on the random input of members of the community. So it's not too scary, especially if you control who gets into the community. So these claims can be objectively validated such that my failure to behave in accordance with the personal claim could result in a penalty such that my bullshit is not free. So yeah, I could be fined. But because everyone knows my identity, I could be offered compensation or threatened to behave against my claims, thereby turning my claims into bullshit. So I think this is the reason you see corruption, because of bribes and threats. And so my personal claim here, and my wife does not like this idea, and it's probably going to change. And I'm thinking, what is something that would be acceptable to my wife and my children? Because we don't yet have a system which allows for an anonymous system of election and government, the only way I see out of this predicament is full transparency. If and when I decide to run for president of the United States, I would attempt to record every aspect of my life such that people can know the truth if and when bad actors attempt to persuade me. So this is for my own protection, and if I record everything, then and if it was live streamed, theoretically, people would know if I was being persuaded by bad actors who were trying to, so they might kill me, they might threaten me, but you would know that happened, right? And so just this idea is like, could, for example, cause bad actors to, boom, immediately assassinate me if I ever run for president, right? Might be a reason I shouldn't. And I do believe there are bad actors. It's like a bad actor, if you come up with a good enough idea, the bad actors will want to suppress the idea. And so they would not like someone with this willingness to sacrifice their anonymity and their privacy. They would not like this. So everything would be recorded, including what happens in the bed with my wife. So there's a part of me here where I'm like, maybe there's a righteous way to be with your wife. And then some people would say, don't record it, right? Because and they would say to record it would not be righteous. And then there's another thing. It's like, well, maybe while I'm president, my wife and I would, because we're being recorded, we would change our behavior. And then I would not be a righteous husband because I'm not being a husband if I'm not, sleeping in the bed with my wife, making love with my wife. So, yeah, my wife doesn't like this idea. But then there's this idea of sacrifice, like, if things are so bad, which I hear they are, then people like my wife and I, should be able to be convinced that to make a sacrifice in service to the world, right? And so this could be considered that way. Well, we don't, we're not jumping at the bit to do this. And there's it's a tricky question too, because you could have someone like the Clintons, and maybe they didn't have the best personal relationship, and so they might be more willing to do something like this. And so you could end up with people who don't have great personal relationships with their spouse. So a man or a woman running for office might be willing to do this. And so this is an idea that's meant for possible candidates. It might not be for me. Like I said, I don't think I'm the ideal candidate, but I would be willing to do it. Because, can you picture this guy doing this? Like, he's not going to get elected. That's my thinking. But it could be fun, and it could be like a publicity stunt, and like this guy could end up on the ballot in every state if this guy receives, 500 to 5,000 people contributing $100, like the maximum that would be matched by according to the FEC, the election committee, Federal Election Committee. So yeah, it could be fun. It could, if you like the idea, it could be a way to put more attention on the idea, such that better candidates than myself would do it. And it's a little tedious and expensive to actually solve that technical problem of recording everything. Like eventually you could have robots that are recording everything, swapping out batteries and doing all of that. But otherwise you would need a film crew if you don't have some autonomous film crew. Or you would need, so you could have wearables that are recording audio and visual. But you could also control the environment. So one idea I mentioned to my wife is that we could have a place that is, and you would prove that this place does not have information technology, so that like my family could go to this place where it has been proven that there's no way to connect with the outside world directly, and that way the family would have I'm thinking like a Camp David kind of thing. The family would not have access to the internet, but would be able to spend time together. And that would be cool, I think. And then the only risk there is that, indirectly my wife or children were influenced, threatened, bribed, and then they are used to threaten and bribe me. So there's still a risk. Bad actors, Lucifer still has a way. So, full transparency is probably the best way to do it. It's the safest way to do it. If you, and I think you need a leader who's willing to sacrifice their privacy. So, get in touch with me if you're that person who'd be willing to sacrifice your privacy and then put up personal claims like that you would delegate your answers to a platform. Maybe it's a platform that's ideated and created by me, right? And maybe you even put out, this is where you can do smart contracts, part of like a distributed autonomous organization, but you could say, you as the candidate, trust, Gavin and Y, some other person. And then you would say the only way things change is if all three of you agree, right? So there's, or you could say that things change if you and the other person agree, right? So the distributed autonomous organization can be organized with smart contracts such that the rules change. The rule changes are encoded, right? And that would be, those rules and those algorithms would be directly coupled to like people's willingness to vote for you. Because if there's a risk of, some bad actor infiltrating and corrupting your distributed autonomous organization, then that would be bad. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is, how do you create, sets of processes, protocols, and integration of technology in a community such that it is trustworthy? So at the top of Metapolitech is like corruption, trustworthiness, and funding. This is what I want to solve. And I've thought about these things, and transparency seems to be really good. So like every dollar, every amount of money you receive and spend can be transparent, or should be. But full transparency seems like something a good candidate should be willing to sacrifice. That means you believe it's important, and so it's good to understand the risks. So one risk is that there is a collusion that happens before the recording starts. So I go into collusion with Bill Gates. And then I start recording everything. And so there was a previous contract with Bill Gates that was not recorded, such that I do it's called a long con. I can do a long con, such that I then record everything and I go and I'm president for 4 years, maybe 8. Hopefully the sacrifice is big enough where you might not want to do it for 8 years, but then you get out and then the contract pays up, right? So the thing is that long con is risky. You don't know. And then the question would be is like, why would Bill Gates actually, like, what did you do for Bill Gates? And because everything you did was recorded, right? So the risk seems like there are these checks and balances in that system that's facilitated by full transparency. All right, so that's that. Let's talk about, Connor McCormick. What's interesting is that I mentioned Mike Elias with Idea Market, And what's funny is like a month ago, Connor and Mike did a podcast, which I listened to. It was good. So that was interesting. That's called synchronicity. But I want to create a section of this. I could create a section of this for Connor, and that would basically be, how do you verify the claims? And that's where I put forth the idea of anonymity or temporary anonymity and the checks and balances of, so that was one idea. A separate idea is checks and balances of being able to have counterclaims, a redemption period. And maybe you can do both of those, or maybe you only have to do redemption. So, and then it's anti-rivalrous, I think. And the more people who buy into the idea, trying to increase the prize, the reward, if someone disproves the claim, then the more likely that a bad actor would be identified and defeated through the redemption process. So that's for Connor. Maybe I can create a clip on that one. And then that next part probably can't be a clip. It's for Idea Market, but I can try to do it quickly. So I go to ideamarket.io. So I go here, and then I'm like, okay, let's do a new post. And then I'm like, oh, choose a wallet. And I go MetaMask, and then it tries to log in. Welcome back. Great. So I need a password. Meta. So this password. So yeah, like if everything was recorded right now, you could see my password, right? Which wouldn't be good. So secrets, it's good to have secrets. So the thing is I could change my password every day, and then I could release this 42 days later, and then you could see the password at that point in time, and it wouldn't matter. So that's where you can have this temporary anonymity. It's like this could be released later, right? Unlock. Okay, so I did it. MetaMask. So yeah, there's a barrier to entry, I find, in cryptocurrency world, and it's just like, do I really have a reason to, like, maybe I can overcome the barrier to entry and then facilitate reducing the barrier to entry, for example, into a DAO, a distributed autonomous organization, but it's not working. It's not working. See? Cannot assign to read only property chain ID. Blocked by client. And so this looks like my browser, the Brave browser, is preventing this from happening. So you non-tech folks maybe wouldn't have got that. So let me try. So now I have to go to a different browser. Google Chrome. I don't even have Chrome. Firefox? Yeah. Anyways. So yeah, this might be that my browser is preventing me from signing up. So I am trying. It's just not easy. So maybe this, I can go into their Discord and say, hey, seems like the Brave browser is preventing things from happening. Or I could ask, does the Brave browser prevent you from, creating posts and connecting your wallet? But then also, like, I had a hard time actually buying IMO. So, yeah, you can run into all these hurdles where you have to solve problems, but it's nice to, to streamline the process for non-technical folks to participate, such that the tech folks solve the problems. So, All right, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. If, peace on earth, bro. Peace on earth. Um, this is your Messiah, right? And maybe it's not this guy, but it's someone like that, right? And you don't know their gender, you don't know their race. I even was thinking you could have, there's no reason for you to even listen to their accent or their language. Like this body could just have a speaker. And so when the debate moderators ask something, the Metapolitech platform, or the DAO, or whatever, the tech stack behind that body produces an answer. And then the tech stack behind it can all be open source. The algorithms can be known, and that way it can be trusted. So, that's the idea, is that we can have peace on earth through innovation and hacking. You use the vehicles you already have and you hack the system. I'm a hacker. This is what I'm good at. I can take the things that I have available in order to accomplish a goal. That's the kind of innovation I'm good at. And at work, I've had people say, oh, that's a hack, like it's a derogatory thing, but maybe it's a badge of honor. Because I've mentioned the traps of innovators, and this is one of them, is that innovators can sometimes want something that's perfect. And the perfect, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. This is a lesson I learned from a very smart person that I worked with closely. I wish he would come onto my recording on my channel or something, but for some reason I don't think he's into that. But he's smarter than me. We disagree on a lot, but he's smarter than me. So, yeah, I think it can be done. We can create peace on earth. We can use the vehicles that already exist, the systems that already exist, whether it's a political party or an election system and a government. So these ideas that I'm talking about, they are applicable for every organization. Even a business can do something like this, right? But every kind of organization can do it. And this is a way in which one organization can infiltrate other organizations and do it in a trustworthy way that is honest. So that's what I'm getting at. It's like, how do you hack the system? And I think it can be done. And I'm willing to do a lot of these kind of outrageous things and put myself out there. Like, to have some people would say I have courage, but it's like, I don't know if that's the right word. And ultimately, like, these ideas that I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be me, it doesn't have to be this political party, it doesn't have to be this country and this government. It could be any person, any political entity, and any government entity, right? So that's what I'm getting at. And what it requires, is the development of the technology, and then people who are remembering this goal of peace on earth and this path by which we might be able to do it, and trying to participate. So, anyways, I hope you're doing well. And then get a little didgeridoo at the end, maybe. It's kind of like my prayer. You could do there's a spin-off. It's the Amen. So this whole thing could have been this massive prayer where we are listening to the force, the creative force, the loving force that wants all of us to transform toward the ideal, perhaps never reaching it, but transforming. And listening to that force that is omniscient, omnipresent, and that we can have a relationship with, such that we can be a vessel, right? A vehicle for that force. So each of us can try to be the vehicle for that Holy Spirit. And then we express the Holy Spirit, and then we can repeat the patterns of being inviting and not forcing ourselves on others. Right? That's what the Holy Spirit does, man. And that's what you can do. And so it's like this holy, the Holy Spirit is like a holy, you could call it like a virus, but it's a holy virus, right? It can possess, you can invite it to possess you so that you can express it. It's not going to possess you by force. You have to invite it. You have to be listening for it. And so then as you do that, we can end up working together in order to be inviting, to come participate in the group, in the network, to do the transformation on another level, not just the personal, but even in our families, in our communities, and even in heaven, the metaphysical. Welcome to heaven, welcome to the cloud. And we can shape, we can help to transform at every level throughout existence, over time, in space. So here's the end. Amen. Nah. Amen. It's like an amen. There you go. You're welcome.